Good morning, everyone. This is the very first video for Code 4 Collecting. I want to talk a little bit about how you identify Magic the Gathering Reserve set for a variety of reasons. I also want to explain a little bit about this channel and talk to you guys about what you're going to see going forward from here. So if you've actually found this video, thank you. I don't expect anyone will ever see this, and I have a very basic setup. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, if I don't start, I'm never gonna, so I don't have any gear whatsoever. This is literally being recorded on my cell phone in a spare bedroom. That's half storage, half office. I have 3 kids. They're all under 3. Life is chaos right now. But you know what? If I don't do it, I'm never gonna do it. So I'd rather start and try and fail than not at all. A big reason I want to do this is because I've been a first responder for over 10 years now, and I'm 40 this year, so I'm getting up there a little bit. It's for the average male lifespan, more than middle age, so if you haven't thought about that before, I apologize. The average male lifespan is about 73 or so in America and going down every year. Just a little bit, though, so nothing to worry about. So I'm more than halfway there. I've been collecting Magic cards since they came out in 1994, so I've been around. I've taken a lot of long breaks from modern Magic. Vintage is really what interests me because I think this is the millennial version of a midlife crisis. We're not going after red Corvettes and high school cheerleaders like maybe Gen X did or the Boomers, but we are buying our vintage Magic cards back that we all got rid of once we went to college, thinking we've outgrown this children's card game, but it turns out the art and the gameplay is about a lot more than just cardboard. So if you're watching this video, I have 2 main goals. One, again, is we'll talk about identifying the reserved set for Magic the Gathering. The other is that I'm starting this channel for other first responders because there's a lot of really bad habits that you can fall into to deal with stress and the dreaded 4-letter acronym of PTSD. There's a lot of negative coping mechanisms that are readily available. There, take your pick of the cliches. There's fighting, there's cheating on your spouse, there's drinking, there's drugs, there's bottling it up until you have an angry explosion. There's all kinds of ways that you can inadvertently fall into a bad headspace because of calls you've seen, calls that went bad, things that we deal with, the stresses that we deal with as first responders, being attacked. There's an almost endless number of ways that we can trigger negative coping responses, and I want this channel to be a way out. I want this to be your shovel and ladder out of the hole that you're in. If you're a first responder and you've had mental health problems, welcome to the club. I always say there's 2 kinds of medics, there's 2 kinds of VMTs, there's 2 kinds of first responders in general. Those who have had critical calls and critical stress, and those who haven't yet. And the burnout rate for a paramedic is about 4 years. The system I worked in, it was a busy urban system. It was more like 2-year burnout. I lasted 8 years before I burned out, so I've been there. I've done that, got the t-shirt. I actually ended up starting a family, leaving the busy urban system and moving to a much smaller community where I can actually take care of people I care about, and life is good. Life is real good right now. One of the hard parts about life for me is that I have raging ADHD, and I think many first responders do. That work just kind of calls to us. It's just how our brains are wired. But with 3 kids, 3 infants at home, and work the way that it is, like, I don't have a lot of time or opportunity for relaxing or turning off the adult part of my brain. And with Magic cards, I mean, it scratches that ADHD itch of collecting, and it can be some wise investments if you do things right, which we'll talk about on this channel as well. It can be social and a way to build out your social network so you don't isolate, because you can play games with friends and family. And card collecting in general can be financially positive if it's done well and done correctly. It can build social networks. It can give you friends outside of EMS, because if you're like me, most of your friends are doctors, nurses, firefighters, and police officers, and that's about it. And so we get together and we talk shop, and we never get away from it. We make it our identity, and that's not particularly healthy. So nerding out, doing nerd shit is where it's at. And whatever flavor of entertainment and enjoyment and relaxation you like is what you should do. So whether it's Magic cards, Pokemon, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, video games, doesn't matter. As long as you have something that's positive, that's healthy, that's the goal of this channel. Even coin collecting doesn't even have to be games. It can be something completely random. It can be metal detecting. You name it. The goal is to have healthy, positive hobbies that we can enjoy, preferably with other people. Though I'm kind of a single-player type person myself. I'm not particularly social. I never have been. So that's my baseline. But if I want to be social, it's very easy. I have a local game shop that's excellent, and I can go down and meet people and play games. My wife, I'm lucky enough to have an amazing wife who's also into Magic, and her jam is probably Pokemon cards a little bit more, but that's alright. I won't judge. Just kidding. Oops, hit the camera. This is how you know I'm new at this. So, talking about the cards just very quickly, I'm going to put a timestamp down so you guys don't have to listen to the preamble. If you just found this because you want to identify reserved cards, I'll timestamp this at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So, step 1, you will find a white border instead of a black border. It's common for pretty much any like pre-year 2000 type core sets. As you can see, there's no set symbol. There's no rarity marked, so you just have to know which cards are common, uncommon, and rare from memory. There is also no copyright date. And so because there's no copyright date, you have just the name of the illustrator. So if you have no copyright date and white borders, you can pretty much guarantee, and no set marking identifier, you can pretty much guarantee that it's a reserved. Now if you see white borders with copyright date and the author or the illustrator below right here, then it's probably unlimited, which is the core set prior to revise, which is worth even more. So keep your eyes peeled for those. An important thing to note about revised edition is that there's a lot of cards on the reserved list, which means they can't be reprinted as long as WotC honors that agreement, and hopefully they will continue to. This type right here is called a dual lands. It's marked as land, but it's not a common mana, which I can explain more about mana too if you want. Leave that in the comments if you're not sure. I'm sure there's lots of videos about how to play Magic, and maybe I'll make some. But anyway, these dual lands right now are like $200, $300, $400 per. And I was fortunate enough to be rebuilding this collection in about the year 2010 or so, and I was able to grab this one, and I had a few others that I had unfortunately sold. But I grabbed this one for a pretty reasonable price, like probably $60 or something like that at the time. And it makes me sad because I had so many of these cards when I was a kid in the 90s. My parents bought me starter decks and booster packs for, $2 and $10 a piece, and I just pull these cards out of a $10 pack, and I had tons and tons of them. And after high school, I was going out into the world as an adult and thought I wasn't going to play Magic anymore or collect cards anymore, and I was going to be a grown-up, and it was all serious. And I gave away my massive collection to a girl I wanted to impress, and tell you the truth, I probably gave her $30,000 worth of cards today, and I don't even remember her name. So the one thing I learned about this is hang on to your cards, and if you need to sell them or want to sell them, go for it. But the longer you don't sell them, with Magic the Gathering so far with a 30-year history, the more valuable they become, and it's hard to say which ones will become valuable. So my broad collecting strategy right now is basically grab as many as I can and hang on for dear life, because you never know which ones are going to take off. You never know which ones are going to tank and be worthless. And that's my spiel on Magic the Gathering Revised. If you can buy anything that's vintage Magic and hang on to it, I believe then it's a worthwhile investment for what it's worth. I had been a financial advisor for a hot minute. after 2020. I wanted to help some of my fellow medics retire, so I became a financial advisor for a little bit and helped a few of them do that, and discovered that that is not a world I want to be in, that finance world of selling annuities and bad products and insurance that people don't need. And I didn't get a lot of support for supporting my fellow medics with financial advice. I got a lot of sell them this, sell them that, and I'm not willing to do that. So I'm not working as a financial advisor currently, but I have been. Now, a lot of people will say this is not financial advice, and it's not, but those who know what financial advice actually is don't have to say that, because legally speaking, financial advice is something very specific. So, of course, I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but for me personally, I believe vintage magic is worth investing in, and you can do what you like. Anyway, that's a 10-minute video, long enough. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and we'll do some more soon.